Hello travelers and welcome. Today's build is going to be a Void Knight dot build. We'll be using Devouring Orbs and Abyssal Echoes to just absolutely annihilate everything in our path. Now this isn't going to be the fastest boss killer. This thing was 100% designed to be a Monolith of Fate speedrunner. Now you can also take it into the arena and do quite well there as there's mob density, but anywhere that there's mob density, this thing really excels. The more mobs, the more damage, and the more satisfying that this build will feel. Now what we're going to be doing is doing a couple of skill trees a little bit differently than normal. One, we're going to try and get as many purple balls as possible, but we've also made them bigger and we're really focused around Time Rot and having all of the rifts that we create apply Time Rot on hit. And then we'll have Abyssal Echoes, which is a skill that I have been wanting to bring back. It used to be really good when it could pull really well. Then they kind of redid the skill tree a bit and it kind of lost favor with a lot of people. But now with the new staff and the fact that its cost is reduced to a point where you can actually spam it at times and use it to 100% uptime, it's actually a lot funner to use. So we're going to be using it to debuff our mobs so that they take 15% more dot damage every time they get hit with Abyssal Echoes, and we'll be able to hit them quite a lot with it. So against bosses and things, they'll be taking hundreds of percentage of dot damage of more dot damage. And then we also have another stacking debuff on it, which will be the Abyssal Decay, which will be its own form of dot. And we're running all sorts of dots on this build. We have Bleed, we have Frostbite, we have Time Rot, we have Abyssal Decay. So we have Future Strikes. We just have a ton of dots that are going off, and this thing, as you can see in the gameplay, looks really satisfying. It feels really satisfying to play, and it's a bit of a speedrunner. All you're going to do is put things on auto cast and lunge from enemy to enemy, and because the Void Knight leeches so much life, it has very high survivability, seeing as it can just continually leech all of that damage that it's doing and replenish its life extremely quick, especially since we threw the woven flesh into our chest piece. We get leech rate, so all of that health comes in quicker, we get a lot of it, and your survivability is going to be really high. Alright, let's get into the skills. For skills, I'm running Abyssal Echoes, Lunge, Devouring Orb, Anomaly, and a Volatile Reversal. For Abyssal Echoes, I have 3 points in Temporal Reaving. This makes Abyssal Echoes hits cause a debuff on the enemy that will cause them to take 30% more damage over time. Now this doesn't normally stack by itself, but if you put 1 point in Sequel of Decay, it now does stack as a debuff, but the damage is reduced by that effect of 50%. So instead of 30% damage over time, it's 15% damage over time. But you'll be able to cast this and put many stacks on the enemy. You can have between 10 and 20 stacks depending on how fast you're spamming it, if say you're at a boss or a rare, which is going to cause the enemy to take more damage over time. We have 3 points in Echomancer, 2 points in Abyssal Infusion, 2 points in Sonority. This will increase the area of your Abyssal Echoes, making it much larger, and it's going to take up much more of the screen. Now, we did not put 1 point in Final Echo. A lot of people like this. I even like it due to its area increase and the mana efficiency, but it no longer chains. So one of the main things that we want in this build is for the Abyssal Echoes to chain over the entire screen, and if you have enough mob density, they will continue to chain for screens and screens away. Then we have 1 point in Creeping Decay. So normally Abyssal Echoes, when it does a hit, it applies Abyssal Decay, which causes an enemy to take void damage over time for 6 seconds. If they take another hit after you've applied this to them, all of that damage is dealt to them immediately. It doesn't just go away, it's dealt to them immediately. But you can only have 1 stack of this on an enemy. Now, since we're doing so many recasts and so many hits with Abyssal Decay and Abyssal Echoes, it would only make sense to try and stack this as well. So we put 1 point in that Creeping Decay so that you can now stack it, although the duration is decreased by half, so it only lasts 3 seconds instead of 6, which technically gets rid of its damage by half. However, since you can have multiple stacks, it would only take 2 stacks to get your damage back, but you're able to put 10 to 20 stacks on the enemies, which means they're actually going to end up taking more damage. Now, you don't actually apply all 20 stacks, because more than likely they're going to take a hit from some source, so that they're going to not be able to stack it up as they're automatically consumed once they take a hit. But it will allow you, if you do multiple Abyssal Echoes before the enemy actually takes a hit from your Abyssal Orbs on your Devouring Orbs, that they'll be able to take a lot more damage over time. Then we have 1 point in Temporal Echo, so that Abyssal Echoes automatically recast. What this means is when you use the skill, it just goes off once. It creates this wave around you of purplish, and that's it. Now you recast it. So what happens is, and this is like an instant cast, so it's not something you have to stop for your character, just basically ignores it. You'll just use the skill once, and then it'll automatically recast 1 second later. This does increase the mana cost. Then we have 4 points in Abyssal Cadence, so that you get 4 more additional recasts for another 140% mana cost. So that means you get 5 recasts along with the original cast. You are now getting 6 Abyssal Echoes for using the skill just 1 time. Of course, those are all parts, so that means that once you cast it, the skill technically takes 6 seconds to finish, although after you've cast the original one, it doesn't affect you in any way, so you can continue moving on. And then with 4 points in Distant Echoes, this is for the mana efficiency to help combat that 140% increased mana cost. This also increases the delay by 80%, so it's now a 1.8 second delay in between casts, which means that the skill itself lasts 6 times 1.8, or roughly 10.8 seconds. For Lunge, have it set up the normal way. We have 4 points in Into the Fray, 3 points in Tactician, 4 points in Forge On, 1 point in Unstoppable, 1 point in Initiative, 5 points in Avenger's Charge, 1 point in Brigade, and 1 point in Deadly Aim. And then for Devouring Orb, so a lot of these have +1 skill level that all comes with the staff. Devouring Orb is the only one that we have added levels, and this is on our Helm. So we have 23 points in Devouring Orb, and we've built this a little bit different than people normally build it. Normally you will never see points on this left side. However, since we're running a dot build and we're really wanting that maximum area, this left side really boosts the amount of damage that Devouring Orbs does. So normally how we would build it is we'd put our 2 points into Void Adept, 1 point into Hollow Orb, 1 point into Abyssal Emission. This gets it to cast the Abyssal Orb, and then we would spam a bunch of points. In fact, all of the points we have over here, all 8 of them, we would normally put into Dark Torrent, so it casts the Abyssal Orb much faster. Right now it does it every 3 seconds, and with 8 points in here, you'd get it down to about every 1 second. But the difference is that Devouring Orbs, every time that you kill an enemy, they automatically cast a Rift, and because we're going to be killing lots of enemies with all of our other skills, like Abyssal Echoes and Lunge, and the Devouring Orbs themselves, there's really no need for the Abyssal Orbs. They are nice, but you don't really need as many of them as possible. We're not applying any on-hit effects. We're just applying Time Rot and all of our effects with these skills themselves. So Devouring Orb, instead, we put 2 points in Rift Caller, which is going to increase the damage the Void Rifts do, 3 points in Abyssal Expanse, for 90% increased Void Rift area. This is why they start to take up the entire screen. And then 3 points in World Eater, so that each individual Time Rift will have a 45% chance to apply Time Rot, which is a damage over time of Void. It's also a debuff, which will reduce their attack, cast speed, and stun duration. But now that you have a 45% chance, Devouring Orbs do a lot of Time Rifts. Not only do they do a Time Rift every time that you kill an enemy, so you're going to have about 10 balls at all times. So every time you kill an enemy, not only will 10 Void Rifts be going off, but at the end of their duration, they also explode into like 5 or 6 kind of shoots of Void that also all do Time Rifts. So you're getting a crap load of Time Rifts, which means you're applying many stacks of Time Rot on the enemy. And then we have 1 point in Dark Moon, so they orbit you, 1 point in Abyssal Rush, so you have move speed, 1 point in Cosmic Impact to increase their void damage, and 3 points in Sightless Star for the mana efficiency and cast speed of them, 1 point in Cataclysm, so that they erupt at the end of this. This is what gives you all those extra void rifts when they come to the end of their duration. And then 4 points in Orb Master reduces their cooldown by 120% so that you can cast them much more often. For Anomaly, we have Anomaly set up to give us as much leech as possible for its full duration and to have 100% uptime. So we have 1 point in Void Touched, 1 point in Immediacy, 1 point in Time Bubble. This creates a bubble that is kind of a purple bubble. Normally it stands in place, it lasts for 5 seconds, and it causes enemies to take increased void damage when they're inside of the bubble. It also slows them. 5 points in Temporal Mastery increases the time bubble's duration by 100%, so it now lasts a total of 10 seconds. And with 1 point in Lingering Memory, when you or your enemies leave the time bubble, the effects that it has caused still last for an additional 2 seconds. So altogether that means it's 12 seconds. And with 3 points in Swift Rest with a 30% cooldown, you end up there with a 12-second cooldown. So it's up for 12 seconds. It has a 12-second cooldown, which means you can have 100% uptime of it. Then we have Time Lord with 1 point, so that time bubble is now cast on yourself and it will move with you. This gives it a mana cost. It's free without it, but with it, you don't have to worry about trying to stay in the bubble. It just stays on you. 2 points of Manipulation for some attack speed and cast speed, and 3 points in both Time Eater and Void Maul for that extra health leech, and it's doubled for void damage, which is all that we do. And then for Volatile Reversal, we don't use this very often. It's mostly just for boss fights, but basically it's a buff that's going to give you more damage. And I also like to use it right after I've spammed my Abyssal Echoes. So normally your mana is going to stay full basically all the time unless you start spamming Abyssal Echoes, and then your mana will fall down. When that happens, you can reversal if you spam them quick enough and get all of your mana back and then go about what you were doing. Our setup here, we have 3 points in Time Sap, 3 points in Catching Up, 3 points in Warped Time, 2 points in Traveler's Fatigue, 2 points in Ancient Reversal, and then we have 1 point in both Incipient Void Rift and Terminal Void Rift, so that you create 2 Void Rifts whenever you reversal, and then these Time Rifts with 3 points in Dark Expanse and then 3 points in Harbinger of Dust. They cause the enemy to take 30% more damage. So this is extremely effective if you reversal on top of a boss about every 4 seconds. That's going to allow you to, 1, get your mana back and spam Abyssal Echoes more, but these Void Rifts from the reversal itself is also going to make the boss take 30% more damage, which is huge. For passives, I have 20 points in the base Sentinel class with 8 points in Juggernaut, 2 points in Relentless, 5 points in Armor Clad, and 5 points in Time and Faith. 0 points in Paladin, 0 points in Forge Guard, and 91 points in the Mastered Void Knight. We have 10 points in Abyssal Endurance, 10 points in Sorrow and Steel, 5 points in Temporal Corruption, 8 points in Void Bolts, 10 points in Devouring Blade, 8 points in World Eater, 10 points in Future Strikes, 4 points in Woe, 4 points in Singular Purpose, 5 points in Echoing Strikes, 1 point in Time Legion, 1 point in Avatar of Regret, and 15 points in Dread for that huge amount of void damage and a nice boost of move speed. For items and idols, we have some Ornate Solar idols that come with mana efficiency, and they have a chance to apply Time Rot on hit. Now, all of the Time Rot on hit that you can get inside of the passive tree is for melee attacks only, so these idols will allow you to apply it on any hit that you do, which means that your Devouring Orbs, Abyssal Orbs, and your Lunge will apply the Time Rot on hit. And then also your Devouring Orbs have their own Time Rot chance for their Void Rifts inside of the skill tree. Now there are other idols that you can wear. You have idols that have Time Rot duration. You have idols that can increase your damage for 4 seconds after casting Devouring Orb. You can get void damage over time. You don't really have to get the mana efficiency ones that we have here. Now the mana efficiency idols with the void spells is nice for your skills. How this build will work fine without them. Abyssal Echoes is the only skill that will really truly get way more expensive, and at that point you can spec more of the points in and get rid of the additional area and spec more into the mana efficiency, or just cast it less, as it's not your main damage dealer. It's more of a helper for like getting into the boss fights and the rares. But if you have some mana efficiency idols, I definitely recommend them, as they're going to make it just to where you can spam the skills more. And then for our items, we have 2 unique, so you will need the Omnividence two-handed staff. I don't know how to pronounce that, but this is pretty much very needed for the build. Without it, you are going to suffer a lot of mana issues. This also gives you a huge boost to spell void damage. It reflects damage that you take, it lets you cast your void spells faster, and it gives you +1 to all your skills for void spells, which is just huge. And then the other unique that we have is the Woven Flesh, which is 100% guaranteed drop from the Abomination. This is going to allow us to leech a lot more of that void damage. It gives us some health. It lets us leech all that overkill damage a lot with these dot builds. Since a lot of the dots build up, they usually kill the enemy before the dots have ended, which means that a lot of that overkill damage is going to be leeched, which is a huge boost to your leech. You have leech rate, which is going to increase how fast you're getting that leech into your health. And then of course you have 100% critical strike avoidance, which is pretty big for the defensive side of things. And then for the actual crafted items, we're wearing a Shadow Helm with +2 to Devouring Orb. That's really the only thing you got to make sure that you get on this. After that, we have some Abyssal Decay Duration. You don't really need that. We have Poison Resistance and Increased Health. Those are simply tier 2s. And then for the Ruby Amulet, we have increased void damage, void penetration, health, chance to apply frailty on hit. You don't need the frailty. The health is nice. The void penetration is a pretty big damage boost. The increased void damage is alright. We have lots of increased void damage already, so you see less of a benefit from that. The void penetration and health are the 2 most important things here. And then at least having a chance to apply frailty. You do so many hits that you don't need to have a very big chance to get a couple of stacks of frailty on the enemy. And then we're wearing 2 gold rings. Our gold rings have mana regeneration. You don't have to have that, it's just nice. We have increased void damage, necrotic resistance, and health. The left ring has mana regen, void damage, necrotic resistance, and health. And then our bronze belt has void damage, ward gain on potion use, increased health, and hybrid health. The health is really the only important things on here. You can do whatever you want in the suffixes. You can get dodge rating on potion use, dot damage, anything else that you'd like. Then for the gloves, we have the noble gloves for the cast speed. We have cast speed on them, critical strike chance, which you don't need, flat health, and hybrid health. Then we're wearing the Heoborean boots for that cold resist. They come with movement speed, attunement, physical resist, and hybrid health. And then we have a tainted effigy relic for the +9 spell void damage. We also have +2 to smite on this. Now you don't have to have that. We're not even running smite on this build, but this one had elemental, poison, and spell critical strike chance, so it was a decent enough item that we went ahead and swapped it over. But feel free to remember that you don't need that +2 to smite, although you can throw smite in here if you want instead of reversal, and use smite to get your mana back if you do run low. But again, I didn't really want to stand in place and cast. This build was strictly meant to be a speed running monolith pusher, so that you never have to stop. You just keep running and lunging ahead. And then for the character sheet, as you can see, we don't have quite capped resistances, but we're doing alright. We're missing about 17% on poison, but that's the lowest. We have 19% armor, and then we have 1700 plus health, which is really nice. Our damages sit, and the void damage is just over 560%. We don't really do many critical strikes. Now the future strikes can critically strike, and the abyssal orbs can critically strike, and lunge can critically strike, but since we're not really building into those types of damages, we have no critical strike multiplier. We have a very low actual critical strike chance, and those critical strike increased chance that we have on the items, you can definitely swap those out for something else. And then for the skills and how I play the build, I like to put Lunge, Anomaly, and Devouring Orb all on autocast. Reversal will be something I only use when I'm like at a boss, or if I'm out of mana and want to have a chance to get my mana back. And you cast Abyssal Echoes whenever it is that you are wanting, your mana's full and you have that 26 mana. I like to not spam it unless I'm at a rare or a boss that I need to take out. But you can see just running around, if I don't cast Abyssal Echoes, we do not have mana issues. You have so much mana efficiency that your Devouring Orb only costs 4, your Anomaly only costs 8, Lunge only costs 1. You're literally getting all of your mana back almost instantly. You got plenty to spare. And this is where the expensive Abyssal Echoes will come in use. It costs 26 mana, so as you can see, it's just 4 uses of it, and I'm going to be out of mana. But I'll just cast it every now and then. With a cast like that, you can see my mana is already full again. If I spam it, my mana will drop, but then I'll just time reversal, and look, you get your mana back. And you can see the kind of damages that we're doing here. All those dots, you have so many things going on this boss. Every time rift is hitting, you have time rot, you have bleed, you have future strikes, you have frostbite. Like, we have all sorts of things. A lot of them are some blessings, but they all work together to give you a bunch of dot damage. And you can see in the gameplay, you just absolutely annihilate things. Alright, we're going to go ahead and get into some more gameplay.